There is a moment that many dog owners recognize, even if they have never stopped to think about it. You might be speaking on the phone in another room, using a calm and relaxed voice. Your dog is resting quietly somewhere nearby, half asleep, barely reacting to the sound of your conversation. But then something changes. Your tone shifts ever so slightly. Perhaps you become excited, frustrated, or worried. You may not even realize that your voice has changed. Yet almost immediately, your dog lifts their head. Their ears turn toward you. Their eyes search the room. Nothing obvious has happened. No command was given. No direct interaction occurred. And yet your dog noticed. This quiet moment reveals something important about the relationship between dogs and humans. Dogs are not simply hearing the words we say. They are listening to something much deeper, the emotional texture carried inside the human voice. And in many ways, they understand far more than we realize. Welcome to The Bonded Dog, a place where we explore the subtle psychology of dogs and the quiet social signals that shape the bond between humans and their companions. Dogs share our homes, our routines, and often our emotions. But their understanding of us is not built from language in the way human communication works. Dogs do not interpret our sentences the way another person would. Instead, they observe patterns, tones, rhythms, and emotional cues that are embedded within our everyday behavior. Among all the signals we send without thinking, the human voice is one of the most powerful. It carries far more information than the words themselves. A dog listening to us hears changes in pace, tension, softness, hesitation, excitement, and reassurance. Over time, these vocal patterns become part of the emotional landscape they use to understand the world around them. And when we begin to look closely, it becomes clear that dogs are not simply reacting to noise. They are responding to meaning. The voice as an emotional signal. For humans, spoken language is often about content. We focus on the meaning of words, the information being shared, or the message we are trying to communicate. But for dogs, the human voice functions very differently. What they hear first is not vocabulary. It is emotion. Long before dogs were living inside human homes, they evolved as highly social animals that depended on interpreting subtle signals from members of their group. Tone of voice, body posture, facial expression, and movement all carried information about safety, cooperation, tension, or conflict. When dogs began living alongside humans thousands of years ago, this social sensitivity did not disappear. Instead, it adapted to a new environment. Human voices became part of the social landscape dogs were constantly interpreting. A calm voice might signal stability. A cheerful voice might signal invitation. A sharp or tense tone might signal discomfort or urgency. And these interpretations happen quickly, often faster than we consciously notice ourselves speaking. Over time, dogs learn that our voices carry emotional clues about what is happening around them. The tone becomes a map of the moment. How dogs learn the meaning of tone. A dog does not arrive in our home already understanding our voice. This understanding develops gradually through experience. Imagine a puppy hearing the same gentle tone each time their owner greets them in the morning. The voice is warm, relaxed, and welcoming. The puppy experiences this tone repeatedly alongside positive moments, attention, food, play, or affection. Slowly, a pattern forms. The voice itself becomes meaningful. Even before the puppy understands specific words, the tone alone begins to predict something positive. The same process happens with other emotional tones. A concerned voice might appear when the puppy is approaching something dangerous. A firm voice may appear when the puppy is doing something the human wants to interrupt. Through repetition, dogs begin associating vocal patterns with outcomes. What is remarkable is how precise this understanding can become. Dogs often learn to detect very subtle differences in tone, differences that humans might not even notice consciously. A slight tightening of the voice, a slower rhythm, a sudden rise in energy. To a dog, these shifts are not random sounds. They are signals about the emotional state of the person speaking. The familiar voice effect. One of the most fascinating aspects of canine listening behavior is how strongly dogs respond to familiar voices. Studies observing dog behavior have shown that dogs tend to show increased attention and emotional response when hearing the voice of their primary human companion compared to unfamiliar voices. But even without scientific studies, many dog owners recognize this naturally. A dog resting in another room may ignore television noise or distant conversation. But the moment they hear their owner's voice, even softly, their body often reacts. Their ears orient toward the sound. Their breathing changes. Sometimes they stand up and begin moving toward the voice itself. This response is not simply about recognition. It reflects the social importance of the person speaking. For a dog, the voice of a trusted human carries emotional relevance. It signals the presence of someone who plays an important role in their daily life. In many ways, the voice becomes an extension of the relationship itself. When dogs hear calmness, perhaps the most comforting aspect of the human voice for a dog is the presence of calmness. A relaxed voice often has slower pacing, softer volume, and smoother rhythm. When dogs hear this type of vocal tone consistently, it creates a sense of predictability and emotional stability. Imagine a dog resting beside their human while the person speaks quietly during an ordinary evening at home. The voice moves gently through the room without tension or urgency. Nothing dramatic happens, but the dog hears something important. They hear that the environment is safe. This is one reason why dogs often relax when their owners speak to them softly during stressful moments. The words themselves may not matter, but the tone communicates reassurance. In many cases, a calm voice functions almost like an emotional anchor. It reminds the dog that the familiar social structure of the household remains stable. And stability, for a social animal, is deeply reassuring. What dogs hear? When we think about communication with dogs, we often focus on training commands, gestures, or body language. These tools are certainly important, but sometimes the most meaningful signal we send to our dogs is something we barely notice ourselves. It is the sound of our voice moving through the room. A calm sentence spoken during an ordinary evening. A soft greeting when we return home. A reassuring tone during uncertain moments. To us, these may feel like small details. But to a dog who has spent their life listening carefully to the rhythms of human emotion, those sounds carry meaning. They help your dog understand who you are, how you feel, and whether the world around them is safe. And in that quiet understanding, the bond between human and dog continues to grow. If you enjoy exploring the deeper psychology behind everyday dog behavior, you are always welcome here at The Bonded Dog. This channel is dedicated to the quiet signals, subtle choices, and emotional intelligence that shape the relationship between dogs and humans. If you would like to continue learning about these hidden aspects of canine behavior, consider subscribing and joining us for future episodes. And until next time, listen closely, because sometimes your dog understands far more than the words you say, simply through the sound of your voice.